I have noticed with this domain of applications and services, you guys tend to personify quite literally and use names for your app. Where did the Mike Legal name come from?
So that's a very funny story, So when we were founding the company, I think one of the biggest challenges in the company is finding a good name, right? You don't want to regret a name after 2 3 years when you build the company. So we started Mike Legal because the founders were very interested in the TV series Suits. So how Mike Ross was fundamentally a very good legal associate to the lawyer and actually helped him crack cases, save his time, etc. So that's where we actually came up with the name.
Okay, that'll probably help in your global markets ambitions.
I'm hoping. I'm hoping.
Today we're talking to Anshul Gupta, one of the co-founders of a company called Mikelegals. Now, Mikelegals, to put it simply, makes an AI-powered search engine for lawyers. When lawyers are doing their work, they need to do a lot of research, and that research can often take many, many days. With Mikelegals and the artificial intelligence powering their product, that research can be done in mere minutes, and they've got a bunch of clients right from the get-go. So let's talk to Anshul Gupta. Anshul, thank you. Thank you for taking the time out to do this interview with us.
Sure, absolutely. Very happy to be here.
Super. Anshul, I was looking at your background online. Of course, I have to snoop and stalk and figure out what are the right questions to ask. I did notice that you have a commerce background and you also went to school in the idyllic Kodaikanal.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so give us a brief history of Anshul Gupta and how you came to be working with Mike Legal.
Sure, absolutely. So, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur since I could, think about what I want to do eventually in life. So, Kodaikanal was a very good experience for me because that really taught me about, it actually extended my horizon about what different people actually think about. It was the first time I was away from home for a couple of years, so that really taught me about being self-sufficient. So after Kodaikanal, I came to SRCC where I basically was pursuing Bachelor of Commerce. A lot of people around me always wanted to get into jobs, look at an MBA, but I was always interested about what type of solutions can be built, what are different problems that can be solved through technology. So within a year and a half of college, I actually founded my first company, which was Fabins.com. So this was around 2014 2015 where a lot of e-commerce, more importantly fashion websites started coming in. So the first thought that I had is how many people can go to different websites, how many people can download different apps, and where is the fashion discovery really coming through. So that's where me and a small team of people actually created a personalized fashion discovery engine, partnered with all the big e-commerce players like Flipkart, Myntra, Jabong, and created an experience where you can actually, based on your features, your body type, etc., discover fashion products across the internet. So that was my first experience actually building a company, building a product. And so after Fabins, I took a couple of months off, and that's where the entire market around AI got, it just completely blew up. So a lot of companies around AI started coming in. And my sister is a lawyer herself, so I was always very connected with the legal background, how lawyers operate, and that's where me and my co-founders really thought that legal market is one that could perhaps be very interesting and and actually be disrupted using AI, and that's where the entire concept or the approach towards Mike Legal got started.
Are you a tech enthusiast yourself? Is that where this interest comes from? Clearly, this is your second startup.
So I've always considered myself as a tech enthusiast, but what really drives me is solving problems, right? So with Fabins, the main problem that I was solving was the inefficiency around fashion discovery, right? How much time can you spend looking for the perfect dress for the perfect price? With Mike Legal, we are solving the inefficiencies in the legal market, where a lot of legal teams are doing multiple processes manually. So more than a tech enthusiast is the connection of technology with a problem that really gets me excited about doing something new.
So very clearly, you had exposure to legal issues because you have that in your family with your sister. Where did the idea of AI come in? Because again, you don't have an actual engineering background or a tech background. How did you make this connection between legal, where you already have some exposure, and artificial intelligence, which of course was blowing up at the time?
Sure. So AI is fundamentally technology that allows you to make the processes easier. It's a technology that allows you to understand data and make predictive decisions, right? So in a legal field, there is so much unstructured data. So today, if you look at any case law, right? So there are more than 50 lakh cases that are taking place in India. But the way people are doing a search is very historic. What they do is they simply put in keywords. So that's where a lot of processes came into play, where AI can actually predict for people that, okay, if you're fighting such a case, what could be the possibility of you winning the case? Or for example, much closer to what we do, if you're filing for a trademark, where previously you had to think across more than 4 million trademarks, which are the ones similar to you had to manually think of all the different ways. Here what we are able to do is we're able to create a knowledge graph. We're able to use image recognition to tell you that what is the probability of your mark getting opposed or infringed. So the process of where a legal team was spending, let's say, 6 to 7 hours every day, has actually crunched to practically 10 minutes, right? So AI is a mode of reducing the time and effort that people are taking in processing vast amount of data that is out there, specifically in the legal domain.
Okay. And when you had this idea, you of course have a couple of co-founders as well.
Building a legal startup, which is very, it's very domain specific. So without having a legal background, you cannot really build a company, right? So that's where my co-founder Tushar comes in. So Tushar is a lawyer himself. He's worked with various companies. He was an IP lawyer before joining Mikelegals. So he basically brings in all the domain expertise. Looking at what exactly is needed by the lawyer, what's the jargon to be used when you're actually selling the product. And we have Angzuman Ray, who's currently our CTO. So he handles the entire technology at Mikelegals, the entire AI, what is to be built, and how we actually go about it. So in a way, it's a very balanced team across tech, sales, and legal.
From what I understand, when you got into this space, there were other products in this space doing the same thing. Of course, there were keyword-based search systems, and then there was also people using AI, much like you are. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you deal with that?
Sure. I always consider competition as a good thing, because that means that the market is there for you, right? You typically don't want to be always the first one, because then you have to educate the customer a lot about what the product is, what's really happening. If you already have competitor, that means the market is open to such solutions. So when we entered with our solutions, there were already global players who were looking at the market, and there were few of the Indian players. But I think where we really stood out is we really understood the customer's needs, right? So even before we majorly went into the development of the product, we spent a lot of time with the community about how the product should be, what are the needs of the what are the needs for the legal teams. And one thing that we really focus on Mikelegals is customer service. So we always ensure that every customer has a relationship with us, right? So in terms of competition and how you really compete with it, I think the more important question is how you can be relevant to your customer. Because if this competition, that means there's a market there, you have to really think about what makes you different. So at least that's the approach that we like to take. So we are happy if there's competition in the market.
And what is the mode of delivery for Mikelegals? Is it a software as a service sort of situation?
Yeah, so we operate as a completely SaaS model, where typically legal teams take a yearly subscription, and it's a cloud-based system. So they're easily able to access it, and it's highly scalable for them, right? So there's no restriction that they only have to work on the system in their office and all. And specifically with COVID, we've seen a huge uptake with the systems, because they've actually started to realize that having a cloud-based system allows them a lot of flexibility to operate.
Can you talk to us about your journey in speaking to customers and actually getting your first customers and inroads into that space?
Sure. I think for any company, you remember the first customer more than the 100 customer, right? So personally, the happiness I had when I got my first customer, I don't think I've ever had that when we now have the 100 or 150th customer. But I think that's the beauty of it. So when we look at competition, typically what we did was we first validated if we can create a very very small product and get some level of commitment from our customers, right? So with Mikelegals, what we did is we just simply put up a website where we detailed what Mikelegals was, and we said that okay, the first 100 signups would get, let's say, a 50% discount on the subscription. So then we actually started talking to customers. We ran a few LinkedIn ads, and we actually got 30 law firms signed up with us. So that actually told us that even though we don't have a product here, just based on what we are thinking, here are 30 law firms who are interested in us. So that gave us a direct motivation to actually take the first step of starting to code on the solution, starting to build the MVP. The next approach was that once we have the MVP, we went to these 30 customers. So the biggest problem when you build a solution is getting those first 100 customers, because these are the customers who would actually shape the product that would eventually get you to 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 customers. So those are very very important to us. So we made sure that we were meeting those customers every single day, getting the feedback, seeing how they're using the solutions. So once we had a good amount of base, that's where we scaled up on. And what that allowed us to do is to reach product market fit really quickly, because we conditioned the product exactly to what the customer wanted, what their needs were. And by giving a good customer service, we got a lot of customer referrals. So within a span of like a year and a half, we today have more than 100 customers, and we're one of the leaders in the IP space in India in terms of providing software solutions.
Can you talk to us a little bit about your challenges through the initial years? What were your key challenges? Was it clearly you said that you focused on customers to get that market fit, right? Was technology a challenge?
Sure. I think when you're first building out a solution, a lot of the things you actually learn on the go. So a couple of challenges were exactly how do I get the database? How do I actually train the AI on this particular data set? Make sure it's not biased, because that's very important, and give consumers the best results. I think the bigger challenge for us was to really scale, because we today are dealing with more than 5 million trademarks that are actually queried every 5 minutes, right? So if you do a search for, let's say, Mikelegals, the system needs to process all these 5 million, create a knowledge graph for your mark against these 5 million, create an entire predictive analytics, and then share it with you, right? So there's a huge amount of processing that actually takes place. And when we were starting, after I would say I think 30, 40 customers, we started having scalability issues. So that was a huge challenge for us, because in a SaaS model, if your systems aren't working specifically with legal teams, they would not consider you again, right? So that way, DigitalOcean really played a good, a very very integral part, at least in our scale up, because first of all, it's a very very easy interface, right? So even when we were bootstrapped, we were looking at scaling up. When we were hiring people, most of them knew how to create the architecture around DO, because it's a very easy interface to really use. Secondly, the entire structure of DO, where they provide you droplets, allowed us to really scale up as the users went, right? So previously, where we had to do is, we have 30 customers, we had to estimate the usage, then build it on there. With DO, our scalability became way faster. So I think from a technical standpoint, those were few of the challenges. And from a business standpoint, is the standard challenges of understanding the customer, reaching product market fit, seeing how you can actually move faster than the competition. So that those are the challenges in our initial years.
Can you talk a little bit about the kind of scale and volume you see with your customers? Because clearly scaling became an issue, and that's why DO stepped in and helped out. Can you give me some idea in terms of scale or reference or numbers?
Sure. So typically, we have, let's say, if you take, we have 100 clients. On average, each client has around 10,000 trademarks, right? Now, against these 10,000, the system day in day out has to compare the 5 million marks that are out there, right? Now, each of these marks have multiple data sets, right? So they have the information about what the mark is, what is the image of the mark, the status, the documents, etc. So practically at any given day, we are processing more than, I would say, around 30 to 40 million data points against our customers.
And in terms of cost benefits, because this is something that a lot of customers seem to be telling me,
Absolutely.
that there are
Absolutely.
significant cost benefits and also predictability of cost.
Absolutely. I think, being bootstrapped, every penny counts, right? You don't want even, 1,000, 2,000 rupees to go, because when you're bootstrapped, you have to take care of every single penny. So in that way, DO really helped us because we were able to, the first of all, the Hatch program is amazing for startups, right? Because that really gives the support to bootstrap companies in the initial months to really build the product, get to amount of revenue, and then scale up from there. So I think kudos to DO for launching that program. Second and more important thing was that with DO we were able to predict our costs, right? So when I'm looking at my cash flows, I know that okay, in the next few months this is the amount of cost I'm going to be setting on infra, which sometimes is very unpredictable and can actually become very problematic for startups. So in that way, partnering with DO was a good boost for us as we scaled up.
Do you think the ease of use of cloud services in general has played a role in the way you plan your product? Is that an element that you've just considered? Okay, we're going to be able to take care of that. So now let's do the big stuff.
Having cloud so partners who can actually help you scale up is very, very important, because in our initial months we did not have to worry about the cost. We did not have to worry about okay, how we're going to set up. The support that the team gave us allowed us to get our infra sorted, and then the entire team was completely focused on customers, completely focused on building new features, and I think that played a very, very important part in reaching product market fit.
Okay. So second startup, would you say you have a interesting tidbit or a single piece of advice that you'd want to give other young tech entrepreneurs today?
Sure. I think, talking about my own experience, like I was saying, the biggest mistake that I did, and, a lot of my own colleagues and friends who build startups, I've seen them do, is that you always think that, I'm building this amazing product, everyone's going to buy it. And there's, if I just build one more feature, it will be amazing. And what ends up happening is that you've gone 7, 8 months down the line and you are still building the product and you have no customer interaction. So that was a huge mistake, and that's something that everyone should be really cautious about, because you need to get your customer the fastest, right? So where in my first company I spent 7, 8 months developing the product, then talking to the customer. At Mikelegals, I just simply put up a website, gave some information on what Mikelegals is, and we actually had 30 clients in our roadmap, right? So that, in my experience, is one thing that companies should really look at. And the second one is to focus on revenue, right? Too many companies focus on raising funding and making that as a big deal, because funding would not actually build your company. Is it should be a catalyst. Funding cannot help you survive. Revenue is what helps you survive. Customers are what helps you survive. And if you get customers, if you get revenue, investment will follow.
Awesome, awesome. That it's been great talking to you, Anshul. Thank you very much for taking the time out and speaking to us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. A wonderful talking to you, and take care. Stay safe.
We will stay in touch, and we hope to speak to you about your future endeavors soon.